For the Song of the Sea, Shirat Hayam, and we rise. Ozi, Vezim
Be seated. Whew. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Those of you who are watching us still by live streaming, it's so nice to have you with us here at Temple Aliyah, Woodland Hills, as we begin to get back into action. And those of you who are here, are you excited to be here? There you go. That's what we want to hear. We want to be out anywhere with more than 3 people, to be able to be back into a community in which has always provided with strength and comfort. And just so you know, by the way, there's a home that everyone here is still masked inside. Those of us who will be up here and far enough away can be unmasked with we're participating and speaking during services, but still here in Woodland Hills adhering to all of the requirements that we have. And just so nice to be able to be together. And those of you that's joining us by live streaming, we hope that this sense of connection and community keeps you, if you will, in relationship to others. Sometimes it's hard being home alone, especially on Shabbat. So we are here for you as a community, and will be every Shabbat, no matter what. Going forward, we've always had live streaming, and we're going to even make it better in the coming months. So. The Baruch Hu is, for me, one of those most symbolic prayers of which you acknowledge that you have a community together. When the Chazan, the prayer leader, cantor calls out, we respond as a community. I say, and you know this, so one thing you can't have when you're on Zoom, you can't have the sense of multitude of voices and the feeling of community, right? It becomes a cacophony. It feels as if it's not quite right. When you're together, somehow it blends together. We rise together, page 149 for the Baruch Hu.
Ya la la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Together.
Shabbat Shalom. You may be seated. We'll continue with Or Chadash on page 153. Page 154, Ahava Rabbah.
Shabbat
have something on your mind when you lie down and when you stand up, when you go to sleep at night and when you wake up in the morning. We say those words when we recite the Shema, that these mitzvot will be with us. They'll be with us when we lie down and when we rise up. They'll be with us in the evening and in the morning. And of course, the rabbis in the Talmud spend lots of time analyzing what exactly that means. Is it about the position we need to be in when we say the Shema? Is it about the precise time of day? What is it about? But of course, when we think about what it means to have something on our minds from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, and then from the moment we go to sleep again until we wake up again, and to have something on our minds when we're standing and when we're lying down, it conveys to us that this is about having this on our minds all the time. No matter what time of day, what position we're in, where we are, what we're doing, we're supposed to be thinking of our commitment to living a Jewish life. So we'll say those words together in just a minute as we start to prepare for the Shema. We'll bring together the four corners of our tzitzit. We're on page 154, V'havienu. We have Levi Turbiner with us, who's going to lead us in the Shema. We're on page 155.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'odecha, v'chayu chadvarim cha'ele, asher Anochi metzavecha, chayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha bevetecha, uvelechtecha baderech, u'shochbecha u'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, v'chayu letotafot b'neinecha, u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha.
We continue quietly to ourselves at the top of page 156. Levi's going to continue in the middle of page 156 with Vayomer.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Lemor, Daber El Bnei Yisrael, Va'amarta Aleichem, Ve'asu lachem tzitzit, Al Kanfe Bidechem Ledorotam Benot Nu Al Tzitzit Hakanaf Petil Techelet Behaya Lachem Letzitzit Uritem Oto Uzkartem Et Kol Mitzvot Adonai Va'asitem Otam Velo Taturu Acharei Levavechem Va'acharei Einechem Asher Atem Zonim Achareihem Leman Tiskeru Va'asitem Et Kol Mitzvotai Vehitem Kedoshim Lelechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Chotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot Lachem Lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Excellent job, Levi. Thank you so much for being part of our service. We are going to continue on page 158 with Mi Chamocha. Already standing, we'll invite you to rise and join us. The Amidah begins on page 159. We'll continue praying to ourselves through page 166 in the Hebrew, in the English, or whatever prayers are in your heart. Shabbat Shalom, page 167.
ואומר דברי חילותי וימליך מחוצי בחייכון ומחון וחי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קרי ויאמרו אמן. יש רב ובורח לעם יתברך וישבח ויתברך ותמם וינשא ויתהדר ויתהלב ויתהלל שמי לשעריכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמר עלמה ויאמרו אמן. תתגבר צלותון ודהון כל בית ישראל קודו ושמי ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה וחיים לילה על כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן.
We are about to begin the Torah service, so we're going to invite our ark openers up and we'll join together in Kimi Tzion. We're on page 168 as we take the Torah from the ark and get ready to read from it.
Kimi Tzion, take Tetzei Torah Echad Adonai Yerushalayim Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah Echad
If you were going to pick one parsha that you were going to turn into a movie, other than maybe the Exodus from Egypt story, which actually has already been turned into a few movies, this one that we're reading today would be a pretty good choice. We're about to read about a king named Balak who hires a sorcerer named Balaam to curse the Israelites. And we'll read about this. Balaam rides on his donkey to where the Israelites are encamped, but the donkey's acting up along the way. The donkey is not wanting to get there. And the donkey knows that God is trying to block their path so that they won't be able to curse the Israelites, so that Balaam can't get those curses out of his mouth. Balaam keeps trying to go forward anyway, fighting against the donkey. And when they arrive, Balaam opens his mouth to utter curses, and only blessings come out. So we'll read this fantastical story in just a minute. Chazan Stein is going to call up the first Aliyah. You can find this if you're in the Eitz Chaim Chumash. It's page 894. If you're in any other text reading from the Bible, that's Numbers chapter 22, verse 2. And we have Lori Schlisman joining us by Zoom to read. But first, Chazan Stein is going to call up the first Aliyah.
Ya'amdu Yocheved bat Yisrael Lipa David ben Zalman Rishon.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Lori, are you with us? Can you just unmute yourself?
There we go. Amen. Vayar Balak ben Zippor et kol asher asa Yisrael la'emori vayagar ba'av mipenei ha'am me'od ki ravu vayakot mo'av mipenei b'nei Yisrael vayomer mo'av el zignei Midian ve'ata yelachachu hakakol et kol savivotenu kilchol hashor et yerek hasadeh uvalak ben Zippor melech lemoav ve'et hahi.
asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betofenu, baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. If you wondered in life, how do you undermine people? Right? People who you really want to get at, who you want to somehow, right, change their status, who you don't like perhaps, right? How do you undermine or get back at people? Well, one way, obviously, is to physically attack them, right? Literally, if you don't like somebody, you can just, right, attack them with a weapon, with your hands, whatever you want. Another way would be to use words or to put something in print, right? To say things about people. Today it would be social media, right? You really want to get at somebody, unfortunately, you have the right. You can put something on social media. It's out there for everybody. And you can attack people verbally, if you will, just by throwing out insults at them and undermining who they are. And what's the third way that you can undermine people? Let them do it to themselves. You know that, right? There are some people given enough rope, as we say, will hang themselves. Right? You see that. They go, I'm not going to do anything. I know in the end that they're going to get themselves. Right? We see it all the time. And what's fascinating, these three ways of attacking people, if you will, are found in our portions and dealing with the Israelites right now. So as the Israelites are traveling through, they get to the nation of the Amorites. And it's last week's portion of Hukat. And they actually say to the king, right, of the Amorites, he says, you know what? We just want to pass through peacefully. Just let us, we're not going to take anything from you. We won't take any of your fields. We won't even take any water of your wells. Just let us through. And Sihon, the king, was just so terrified of them that he attacked them physically. And what happened? The Israelites, according to the Torah, with the help of God, were able to defeat them soundly. Well, when Balak, the king of Moab, saw this, he says, look, it's not going to work to attack them physically, so what am I going to do? I'm going to hire someone who's going to curse them. Now, you have to remember, in the ancient world, that curses were significant. They believed that they had efficacy. And by the way, there are many cultures today in which that's still true, don't you think? Aren't there cultures you know about where somebody gives you a, like this, right? Right? They give you a curse, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, take that curse away, please. Right? There's real fear in certain cultures about that. And in the ancient world, of course it was. You could actually, if you were the right person, a prophet of God, and by the way, Bil'am, who was on the donkey that Rabbi Galko was mentioning, right? Bil'am is an Israelite prophet, a non-Israelite prophet. The rabbis actually say that only second to Moses in terms of prophecy. Some even suggest maybe even a little bit better than Moses. Unbelievable. So if anybody could curse the Israelites, it's going to be this Bil'am. And he comes out and he just can't. He just can't utter curses because God controls his speech as a prophet, even though he's a non-Israelite prophet. And so they realize, the Moabites, we can't undermine them physically. We can't undermine them with curses. So what are we going to do? We're going to undermine their very moral fabric. We're going to let them destroy themselves, if you will. So what do? They actually entice them in immoral sexual acts and in idolatry. Now you think like, well, what kind of danger is that really? I mean, you're not killing them, but in the end, it's a real threat. And in the story that we have in the Torah, there's this great story of Pinchas. If you don't know that story of where he takes his spear through an Israelite man and a Midianite woman because he sees them doing something, right, immoral in front of the tent. And the idea here was, and the rabbis say, that immorality can undermine the very fabric of the people. That's why it had to be stopped. That's fascinating, right? That just the idea that we can undermine ourselves. By the way, if you think about the Jewish people, for many centuries, our greatest fear was that of physical attack. Isn't that true? Think about many of those centuries of the Crusades, the Inquisition. It was a really existential threat that we're going to be attacked and we are physically going to be killed. At other times, by the way, it's been anti-Semitism that you find in newspapers, that you find online. And by the way, I don't think many of us could have imagined 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that we would see a rise in anti-Semitism in America like we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. Never would have imagined that. And somehow, it has percolated up again. By the way, it's a danger. Is it an existential danger to our very essence and existence? Not really. What's the greatest threat to Jewish existence? It's apathy. It's the ability to not care anymore about what it means to be Jewish. And in that moment, the Jewish people undermine themselves. It's a great quote, Shneur Zalman of Liadi, right? Rabbi Adam, you know this, right? The founder of Chabad, by the way, the founder of Chabad, who when asked about enlightenment, right? So he lives 1745 to the early 1800s, and the Enlightenment is occurring around this time. Ideas about openness. Jews in France and in Germany are given emancipation. They're allowed to do whatever they want. They can even assimilate in ways they never could have before. And he was asked, so what do you think about enlightenment? And he said, it's good for the Jews, but bad for Judaism. He understood that with time, the ability of Jews just to be able to assimilate in any way that they want to, that the Jews would undo themselves. Not something. You know, today we're celebrating our Bonim and Vatikim families, right? Those who formed this congregation in 1962. By the way, we're celebrating 60 years in terms of a congregation. And our Bonim and our Vatikim, who are veterans who have been here, the first two generations of synagogue life. And they are people who cared about synagogue life and about the Jewish people. That's why we're celebrating with them today. We're going to have a little lunch, the first time, a lunch here at Temple Aliyah, which if you want to cry, right, you can cry over the Torah, you can cry over food being served at Temple Aliyah as well. There's the most Jewish things that we have, reading Torah and eating lunch. And so we're going to be able to share together the idea, though, of caring. And we all say we're worried about the next generations that don't have that same sense, by the way, of obligation. You should know, by the way, the next generation, they feel very Jewish, many of them, in many different ways, but not the traditional way. It's not always about belonging to a synagogue. In fact, seldom is it for those who are 40 or 35 and under. That's just not how you have kids. They don't see it sometimes, right? As the primary way. And so we here have to think about, what's the next generation? How are we going to connect them in ways that synagogue just couldn't before? It's part of going to be our future, part of what we're dedicating ourselves to think about that next generation. They care. We just have to figure out how to connect them, and we're going to be working hard at that. We're going to continue with the second Aliyah. By the way, it was Julie and Jeff Devine. Julie is our outgoing president. She still has about, how many hours do you have left, Julie, of the job? A couple days. And Stan and Debbie, right? Debbie is our incoming president. You'll go over to Chazan Stein. You're going to give him names, and he will call you up. We are continuing with the second Aliyah, which you will find page 894. And those of you at home, if you don't have our Eitz Chaim Chumash, any Torah text will do. Numbers, chapter 22, verse 5. We continue.
Ya'amdu Shmuel, Aaron ben Moshe, Ephraim, Devorah bat Yaakov, Vechana Sheini.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayishlach malachim el Bil'am ben Beor Petorah asher al hanahar Eretz b'nei amo likro lo lemor Hinei Am yatsa b'Mitzrayim hine kisa et ein haaretz vehu yoshev mimuli ve'ata lechana arali et ha'am hazeh ki utzumhu mimeni Ulai ochal nechabo ve'argareshenu min haaretz ki yadati et asher tivarech mivorach ve'asher ta'or yuar Vayalachu Signei Moab Signei Midian Uksamim Vayadam Vayavohu El Bil'am Veyedaberu Elav Divrei Balak.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
We are going to join together now in a prayer for healing for anyone who needs physical, emotional, spiritual healing of any kind. We'll join together now in Mishaberach. We're praying for the healing of Elon Shayot, Dina Bat Yocheved, Chaim Ben Sarah, Reuven Ben Malka, Chana Bat Fegel, Tikva Bat Gila Elisheva, Rachel Sarah Bat Leah, Shoshana Bat Serel, Lori Simon, Hinda Bat Irene, Paula Shayot, Yeshua David Ben Fegel, Nikki Sandor, Avram Hanani Ben Esther Ita, Uri Ben Yehudit, Asher Yona Ben Miriam, Jaden Asher Harrison, Bennett Curtis Harrison, Leica Miriam Bat Riva, Megan Harris, Judy Grisser, Elisheva Bat Yehudis, Ruvain Ben Baruch Leib Ve'elka, Malka Bat Moshe Verachel, the Wood family, and Chana Tova Bat Chaya Mira Uzaev, Reuven Ben Rivka, Chana Bat Eva, Avram Ben Rone Vijin, Miriam Bat Chaim Urivka, Maayan Ben Safir Veheda Fredo. call up the third Aliyah now. We have David Bruskin joining us by Zoom, who will be reading. You can find it on page 895 of the Eitz Chaim Chumash. That's Numbers chapter 22, verse 8. But first, we'll call up the third Aliyah.
The third Aliyah is actually going to be, Buster, I'm in the middle, yeah. The third Aliyah is actually going to be for all of our Vatikim and Bonim, those who built it, and whether you're here in the sanctuary or whether you're other at home. If you are the early founders and builders of this community, right, from 1962 to 1985, I believe we go. We're going to have you. You're going to stand up, and Arnold Bookbinder, one of our founding members, is going to represent this group. So if you're in one of these Vatikim or Bonim, if you've been invited to participate today, right, we invite you. You can stand, and Arnold, please, if you'll come forward, we'll call up all of the Bonim and Vatikim.
Ya'amdu kol havatikim ubonim shlishi.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamuarach.
Baruch Adonai.
Baruch Adonai Hamuarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shebachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nosan lanu es Toraso. Baruch atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Amen. Vayomer alehem lihinu po halayla vashivoti etchem davar kasher yidaber Adonai elai vayeshvu sarei moavim bilaham vayavo Elohim el bilam vayomer mi hanashim ha'ele imach vayomer bilaham el ha'elohim Alak ben Zippor, Melech Moav, Shalach Elai, Hine ha'am hayotze mimitzrayim, vayechas et ein haaretz, ata lecha hakavali oto, ulai ucha lehilachem bo v'gerashtiv, vayomer Elohim el bilaham, lo telech imahem, Lo ta'or et ha'aham ki varuchu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu Torah samech chayei olam notah b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai nosein ha'torah.
Amen. You may be seated.
We want to thank all of our Torah readers this morning. That's Lori Schlisman and David Bruskin, and you'll hear from David again in just a moment. We will continue with Chatzi Kaddish, and after that, Hazan Stein will call up for the fourth Aliyah, Dina and Jerry Appleby, who are going to be traveling to New York and then moving to Camarillo. And so we're honoring them with this special Aliyah. So we'll turn now to Hazan Stein and Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמדתי בחירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי כל יום ובכל חיי בכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב במהרו. Yesh me'avam mevorach le'alam le'am me'avaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitruvam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalah shemei dekudesha berich Ya'amdu Yitzchak Shmuel, Ben Moshe, David, Vegittel, Vedina Bat Machluf, V'Yocheved, Revi'i.
Baruch et Adonai Havorach. Baruch Adonai Havorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayishma balach k'tivaha bil'am. Vayetze likrato el ir Moav. Asher al guhu arnon. Asher bikse haguhu. Vayomer balach et el bilam. Alo. Shaloach shalachti elecha likro lach. Lama lo halachta elai. Ha 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 umnacham loho uchachal kabedecha vayomer bilacham el balak hinevati elecha ata hayachal uchachal daber meuma hadavar asher yasim Elohim befihi oto adaber.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'm going to offer you a little blessing. Right? You never enough blessings in life, Moradina, right? To be able to, this next journey about going to New York and then your move to Camarillo. We know you're still going to stay connected to your people here, though. Mishaber Chavatern, Raham Yitzhak Yaakov Shorev Kara Chavaleah, Yivarech et הזוג הזו. שעלו היום לכבוד המקום. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור אותם ואת כל משפחתם ויצילם את דרכם וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם ונאמר אמן. Jerry and Dina, may you enjoy the journey of life, each chapter unto itself, sometimes unexpected, but always to be enjoyed. May you always carry this community of Temple Aliyah with you. May we always be in your hearts. May you always bring goodness wherever you go to help bring peace. And we all say, Amen. Mazal tov.
Amen. Thank you, Jerry and Dina, for coming up for the special Aliyah. So for all the Vatikim and Bonim out there and everybody else who's, whether you're in the sanctuary or you're at home, when you walk into the sanctuary at Temple Aliyah, what do you think to yourself? What's your first thought when you walk through the door? If you're there today, how did it feel when you walked in? Maybe it was your first time coming back. Maybe you'd been back a few times already. If you're not there today, how do you imagine it will feel to walk in when you do? Hopefully soon. The words that we traditionally recite upon entering a sanctuary are Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How lovely are your tents, Jacob, people of Jacob, and how lovely are your sanctuaries, people of Israel. They're words of gratitude. These words express how lovely it is to gather in a beautiful place to pray. And those words come from this week's Parsha. So we know that even though Balaam attempted to curse the Israelites, his curses came out as blessings instead. And this blessing, Matovu, is what he said. So we'll hear Matovu sung by our choir in just a minute. And as we listen, I hope you'll keep in mind the gratitude that we're supposed to feel when we pray together. Sorry, it's taking a minute to load here. Thank you so much to our choir for that video. We are now back in the Eitz Chaim, in the Siddur Lev Shalem, and we are continuing with the prayer for our country on page 177. Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy, accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials, who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. We'll continue now with a prayer for the state of Israel. We're on page 178, Avinu Shabbat Shalom.
Join along if you know. This prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shabbat Shalom, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love. Spread over the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them. Crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Shor Yisrael
Hazan Stein will lead us in Ashrei. We're on page 181.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yehalelucha Selah.
Ashreham Shadonai Eloham.
Tila LeDavid Aromicha Melech V'Avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
V'choyom avarheka v'halala shimcha le'olam v'hed.
Gadol Menu Ein Cheker.
Dor ledor shabach ma'asecha u'gvurotecha yagidu.
Adar Kavod Hodecha V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
Be'ezuz nerotecha yomeru uglatcha asaprena.
Zecher Rav Tuvacha Yabiyu B'tzidkatecha Yeranenu.
Hanon v'rachum Adonai erech apaim u'dal chasen.
Tov Adonai Lakov Rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yodu hananai kol ma'asecha v'chasidecha yevarchocha.
Yevod Malchutecha Yomeru Ugvuratecha Yedaberu.
L'hodil livnei hadam gvurotaha v'kvod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim Umemshaltecha B'chol Dor Vador.
סומך על הנופלים וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einei Cholecha Yesaberu V'ata Noten Lahem Et Ochlam B'ito.
פותח את ידיך ומסביר לכל חי רצון.
Tzadik Adonai B'chol Dorachav V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav.
קרוב עלי לכל כל רהב לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
Ritzon Yereav Yaseh V'yetabatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
שומר עלי כל אויביו וכל הרשעים ישמין.
Tilat Adonai Daber Pi V'varech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho L'olam Va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה
Me'ata
ועד עולם.
Hallelujah.
We are going to conclude the Torah service by putting the Torah back in the Ark. So we'll invite our Ark openers up, and Hazan Stein will lead us in Eitz Chaim, page 184. Invite you to remain standing, or if you're not already standing, to stand up for the Musaf Amidah. You can find it from page 185 to 192. And you can feel free to take this time to pray in Hebrew or English from the Siddur, or just to pray from the heart as Hazan Stein plays some music. Kaddish Shalom, page 203.
Leila minko b'ktav shiratat shpachat v'lechamata damiran ba'alma v'yimmeru titkabal tzlotot v'odhonu b'beit Yisrael v'odhonu shmai v'yimmeru amen yehesh l'barabba ben Shemaya v'chem v'leinu v'kol Yisrael v'yimmeru amen oseh shalom v'yimramav v'yaseh shalom amen v'kol Yisrael v'yimmeru
We rise for Aleinu, page 205. I believe we have River Schaefer there in person who's going to lead us.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latet gedula le'otzem reshit shelo sam chalkeinu kahem ve'lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chalkeinu kahem ve'gor aleinu kechol hamonah ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושבי קרוב השמיים עם העל ושכינתו זו בגב המרומים הוא אלוהינו העינות אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום את השבעות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים עם העל ועל הארץ ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד אין עוד ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You may be seated. You go down that way, River, looking forward to bat mitzvah, not too distant future, right? Very nice. By the way, I have always said that you'll know when the pandemic is really over when you can be at a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, or a wedding, and you can dance the hora. By the way, that's going to be my barometer when people are comfortable enough to be able to do that. We're not there yet, but there's signs of hope and other things. One of them is to be able to have our president here, Julie, who has not been in the sanctuary for 16 months. Is that right? And she is going to share with us one of her last official acts as president, finishing up at the end of this month, and Debbie Strom taking over very capably in terms of the duties of president. Those of you who are online, our regulars who want to join in on the Zoom for Kaddish, to be able to recite the words of the Kaddish, you can log on now to the Zoom while we're sharing announcements with everybody else. Julie, please.
Thank you, Rabbi Vogel. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
So nice to be back. So nice to see all of you. I'd like to welcome all of our online attendees today, and of course, all of you who are here in the sanctuary. A special welcome to our Vadakim and Bonim, some of our founding and longest standing members. Thank you all very much for your support all these years. Hopefully, those of you at home have your lunch ready, so that we can all enjoy our virtual Kiddush lunch together in about 10 minutes after the conclusion of services. Starting next week and for the month of July, Summer Shul is back and in person every Friday evening at 7 p.m. And each week will be a different fun summer theme. There we go. Thank you. Where was I? Oh, yes. We're talking about Summer Shul. And at the moment, RSVPs are still required, so please visit templealiyah.org in person. So that's templealiyah.org/in-person to let us know if you will be joining us. And it's very hard to believe, but Rosh Hashanah is just 2 months away. I just can't believe that. But what a better way to wish your friends and family a sweet new year than with a bottle of honey. To participate in this adorable fundraiser, head over to templealiyah.org, this time /honey, and enter the information of those that you'd like to send a bottle of honey to, and they'll receive a special care package just before Rosh Hashanah. Purchase in the next couple of weeks to get free shipping. Well, if this past year has taught us not only how important community is, but also how it is important to support your community. You should have received your membership renewal in your email this time. Everything is fully online. Please let us know that you'll be joining us for the coming year by completing and sending it back. And if you need help, of course, we're always here to help in the office, or email or phone calls. And we are definitely back. We were never not here, but we're actually here in person. And this has been our first week back in the office, and it felt so good. Please feel free to give us a call, even just to say hello, and tell us that you missed us, because we definitely missed all of you. We're excited to see more of you just as soon as we can safely. Keep checking our website and the Tuesday Pulse emails as we continue posting in-person events as they open up. And I want to wish Debbie Strom all the very best in being our next president. I want to say how much I enjoyed through all the ups and downs being here with you and serving as your president. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom.
Also, I just want to acknowledge Maureen Sweeney, who's up here, our executive director, and who's been helping to navigate all of the craziness behind the scenes during these 16 months. And of course, Lisa Cohen-Krause. It's great to have people to share together. I'll be heading out for July for a couple of weeks. I won't be gone the whole time, but I'm hoping to go to Israel, even though it's closed down. I'm supposed to be going with the conservative movement to lobby the new Israeli government, all right, without the ultra-religious parties, and with change. We're hopeful that there can be some new movement about accepting pluralism and other goals. So I'll let you know afterwards whether I get to meet with, if I get there, if I get to meet with Bennett and others and Yair Lapid, but let's hope for the best for Israel and for everyone. The words of the Kaddish are an affirmation of life, a reminder that our loved ones are always with us. On this Shabbat, we remember the yortzites and the love shared of the following people. We remember on this Shabbat, Barbara Bobby Enton, Estelle Schwartz, Grace Sager, Joseph Elner, Sarah Ginninger, Charlene Pavarov, Benjamin Schwartzberg, Betty Korber, Joseph Steve Cohen, Lottie Belkin, Natalie Zigman, Solbert Fox, Stephen Weissman, Anna Thorne, Elaine Gottlieb, Jason Turretz, Joseph Sherman, Robert Levinson, Audrey Stevenson, Bruce Simon, Florence Welsh, Gertrude Colton, Miriam Leeds, Nora Dinsfriend, Stanley Spiro, Betty Kahn, Charles Weiss, Diana Satnick, Jacob Deach, Jerry Bass, Ralph Hoffman, Rebecca Alpert, Yusuf Sarafian, Adolf Manis, Frida Berenson, Harold Goldman, Harriet Pomerantz, Hyman Brostoff, Jack Lanowitz, Lillian Kurtzer, Max Heller, Rose Marie Zone, Adele Gorelnik, Conrad Lewis Gardner, Emily Layton, and Gladys Duff. We're also saddened and mindful of the recent passing of Sandy Siegel, mother of our congregant Joel Siegel. For those who are reciting Kaddish, whether you're here in the sanctuary, whether you're on Zoom, or whether you're on live streaming, we invite you to rise. The words of the Kaddish, you'll find page 207. Those of you who are on Zoom and reciting Kaddish, feel free to unmute, and we'll get together in this slowly and deliberately through the words of the Kaddish. Those reciting Kaddish, join together. Yit Gadam, Yit
Kadash,
Rabbah,
Rabbah,
Be'alma,
Be'alma Divrei Kivute, Be'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon U'v'yamechon, B'chovek Yisrael, Ba'akala U'v'zman Karev, V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah, Almei Almayim. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpal, Yitwaman, Yitnaseh, Yitadal, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shmei Dekudish Abrichu, Ve'ela Min Kol, Berchata V'Shigata, Ushbechata V'Nechemata, Yadirab Bi'alma, Ve'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah Bin Shemayim, Yechayim. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oseh shalom limoma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen. Those of you on Zoom, you can those again, please. May God who establishes peace in the heavens grant peace and harmony for us, for all of Israel, and all of humanity, as we say, Amen. We're going to continue. Should we do some kiddush and motzi and some good stuff? Let's all rise together, please. Those of you at home, if you want to rise with us, you're invited as well. Chazan.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Al kein berach Adonai et yom HaShabbat v'yikadshehu savri chaverai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri ha'shofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al nitilat yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
We're going to wish you all, we're going to join together with Chazan as soon as he gets to that guitar. We're going to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Those of you who are here and joining us for lunch, Vatikim and Bonim who responded, we look forward to seeing you. Those of you at home, we want to wish you the best Shabbat of peace and wonderment. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, Buen Shabbat.